On this episode, we travel to Flanders, Belgium, where advocates reopened an ancient country footpath. Then we look at a footpath through a parking garage in Brussels. We visit the wide street in front of the Royal Palace. And finally, we learn about the European Greenways Association. Stay tuned.
We're in Flanders talking with Geert van Vaak, who's the founder of Johanna.be. What is Johanna.be?
Hi, John. Johanna.be is a small NGO in Belgium working mainly in Flanders and Brussels. And what we do is we do support people that want to take local initiatives around pedestrian safety, cyclists and so on. We help them to make their actions stronger and finally end up in a success. The way we do it basically is that we have a website where they can find some advice, some legal advice and so on. We work together with them if they want to know how to approach local authorities and it might be about a zebra crossing, about a right-of-way, a footpath, a bicycle track or whatever. And we basically help them to get their action to a success. We also give them a page in our website, so where they can post whatever they did, why they do it, put pictures in there, basically get some kind of information from why they think it is important that something changes in the road infrastructure or so. They can also post all the actions they did. They wrote letters, they got an answer, those kind of activities. And then finally see from whether it brings success. So that other people can learn from what they did and kind of be stimulated from, hey, if they can do it, why can't we do it? We have a similar situation in our area. So that works well. Another thing we do is at the same time we email to the local authority and say hey guys, there is an activity, there is a website, a page on our website about an action in your area. Please comment on that. So because we don't want to be a situation where we only defend the person getting some action to improve, but it might also be that the commune said yes, okay, but I mean it is in a longer term plan and we need to do this or that or so. So the commune has a possibility to have their point of view also. It was a space reserved on the website on that local action page, especially for them.
And when you have someone concerned about a zebra crossing or whatever, and they haven't dealt much with government before, what sort of mistakes do you find people tend to make that you can help with your advice?
That's a very good question. It's quite often that people see something unacceptable in their neighborhood. They start working on it. They start writing letters to the authorities. But then there are two things that happen. First of all, they often put all their frustration in that letter. And that's generally spoken not the most efficient way to get to a solution. And secondly, they write a letter, they get an answer back, which is not very clear whether the answer yes or no, and then nothing happens, and then people finally are totally down. They don't do anything, and then they get really kind of a negative spiral. So basically, what we do is on first place, the original letter. Let it be positive. Say from guys, I mean, you're doing a few good things in the community here, but by the way, let's look at that point, and can you take care of this or that? And then we support them in being consistent and persistent also. So from when they get an answer, that they follow up after a few weeks and say, hey guys, you said you were going to look into that. Did you look into that? What happened? So that always this kind of their action comes on top of the pile again, so that they keep working on it. And because that is generally spoken the way that most actions finish is by nothing happened, and then people are unhappy after a while. So but if you keep on saying no, we mean it, please do something on it, then finally people tend to do something.
So why are we out here in the middle of this farm field?
Well, exactly. This is an example of a trail that was that was lost, kind of. Behind us, we have a little village. I'm not sure whether you can see the church there, but this is what we call a kerkewegel, or a church road, church trail. From medieval or later times, when people were walking from one church to another, from one village to another, and just oriented them on the tower of the church. So you have everywhere here, you have a load of those little roads. During the 60s, of course, everything went to more motorized traffic, and some of those got a little bit in less in use. And then, of course, you have always private people that think, this little trail here in the back of my yard or wherever, I'll take it. And then basically they block the passage of people. That's exactly what happened here also. You have the pasture here on the side, you have behind us a farm field, and basically the crops were coming till the end of till the next farm, basically, the farm field. And also here horses were walking on both sides. But this is it might be only a little part, but it's it was a kind of missing link between a few trage wegen, slow roads as we call it, footpaths. Behind us, and then in front of us, quite a long network, an important network of footpaths. So by just not having this, forced people to go over dangerous streets in the neighborhoods without any pedestrian or bicycle infrastructure. So this is in fact one of the first actions that we did with Johanna.be, and we asked the local authorities from, hey guys, this actually is a right of way. And in Belgium we have a very strange situation with maps from 1842, the Atlas der Buurtwegen, which still have power of law here. And so since this trail was on those maps, and still, has been in use not so long ago, so it is not that we really are recovering trails from more than 100 years ago. But since this legally is a right of way, so the commune had to take action to open this. In the beginning they tried, and then, as I said, then they said they were trying to work on it and nothing happened, and then you have to remind them, and then still nothing happens, and then you have to remind them once more, and then finally things start to move. And then actually the farmer on the farm field behind us, he was quite soon to free up the space again. He said you couldn't get through the pasture anyhow, so I could as well put my crops on that place. But if you want to have this space back, here you are. The owner of this pasture here was a little bit more difficulties, and the commune, the local authorities have had some difficulties in convincing this guy. But finally, he gave in, and so this road came back, and then the commune then did how do you call it? Put the gravel on
the gravel surface.
Yes. And now it's a very nice part, and it's quite much used.
So why was this section of trail important?
Well, John, what we're looking at here is a map from 1842, the atlas of the local roads. And what you see here in yellow is what today is our public footpaths. And here around you have a church and a little local community. You have a beautiful footpath here. This was the missing link, which has now been restored. And here you have a few very nice footpaths that go to the next villages and so on. So really for this whole network, which you see here in yellow, this little green spot was an important part.
And when you work on something like getting this old right-of-way reopened, do you work with other organizations when you're working on something like this?
Yes. On one hand, there might be other organizations asking our help, but there are a number of organizations where then we ask help then again. And one of those is an NGO called Trage Wegen, again, slow roads. As the NGO and Johanna.be is in fact a member of Trage Wegen. And what they do, or what we do within Trage Wegen, is much more working with local authorities, training them, stimulating them to make local plans of slow roads, of mobility, of pedestrians and cyclists, and also looking at the multifunctional development of these kind of trage wegen or greenways, or what you want to look at it. It's not only about mobility; it is also about nature corridors. It's about historical, as I mentioned earlier, the church roads, the church trails. So trage wegen does a fantastic job, in fact, in stimulating the authorities to take initiatives themselves. From Johanna.be, we work a little bit more from grassroots, and basically we meet each other there. And I think it's a very good complementary activity.
Now where are we?
Now we are in front of the shopping mall in Brussels. One of the big shopping malls in Brussels that was built in the late 60s with a kind of concept, everything for the car. So it started off smaller, of course, with a shopping center and a parking lot in between. And there was a right-of-way, or in fact a road, just crossing in between the original shopping center and the parking lot. Now people could pass by there was no problem. After a while, the shopping center expands and becomes bigger and bigger, and builds additional parking space and build a kind of control on the parking so that you cannot get in and out there easily anymore. And one day the pedestrians and cyclists found that they couldn't cross that area anymore. But now this becomes a very large space within the urban tissue, and this road was quite important for a number of people living behind us and going to a few secondary schools which are a little bit further away here. So from one day to another, they had to, instead of crossing that road, they had to take a detour from about 800 meters, which was of course not very acceptable. The local neighborhood association started discussing with first with the people from the shopping center and then with the local authorities that this right-of-way had to be reinstated. And well, there have been many ups and downs, and even the local authorities said, oh, no, they have the right to close that off, till we came again with those laws from 1842 I mentioned before. And I mean, basically basic pedestrian and cyclist rights. And then gradually the local neighborhood association, supported by Johanna.be, did get this cycle track which we have behind us now. I think it was a fantastic evolution from a situation where the manager of the parking lot at a certain moment clearly stated, never ever a bike will get through my parking lot. Till finally when they realized that it made sense and that they had no legal choice either, then they came up with a solution which actually was better than the solution that the local neighborhood committee originally had proposed. So what we have here now is a bicycle track that is used especially during daytime, during school days and so on, quite a lot.
So it's not just out in the countryside where these old right-of-ways are important, but in the urban area as well.
Absolutely. These are even more important there, especially when you have these buildings that start building bigger and bigger blocks. Remember, here in Europe we used to very small blocks, and we have a much more complicated urban tissue. So those old roads, this was referred to as pedestrian road number 6 in that map. Those roads become very important, yes.
Where are we now, and who has joined us?
Well, now we're in the center of Brussels, in front of the Royal Palace, and as you see, in the middle of a very broad street where it's very difficult to cross as a pedestrian. With us here is Michel van der Roy, who is the president of a committee that is fighting for getting safe pedestrian infrastructures on this part.
So what sort of proposals have you come up with that might make this road a little easier to cross?
But the problem of this place is that is too broad. There is many tourists, and the cars are driving too fast. And then we are proposing large traversées.
Zebra crossings?
Yes, in 3 places on the Place des Palais.
Okay, what we're looking at here is the map that the committee Quartier des Arts has worked out together with an architect as a solution for this situation. So here you have the Royal Palace, here you have the park with the 3 entrances, and basically what they're asking is a few pedestrian crossings with an island in the middle to make safe crossing of this road, which is more than 40 meters wide. The city for the moment is kind of open to have some kind of crossing here, maybe moved a little bit more to this side. This might be a more problematic one. This is probably going to happen. So we are moving in the right direction, we're not fully there. They also ask that the pavement be enlarged so that cars cannot park in that place where pedestrians cross. The distance would be shorter. There are some discussions about that, whether they are feasible to do so, because it is a site of cultural and historical importance, and then it makes things a little bit more difficult, but absolutely not impossible.
What's been the reaction from the authorities?
The Royal Palace is agree, and the city is too, but the functionaires of the city find that it's they put bad solutions, and the police will not that we do our plan.
Well, I can comment maybe a little bit on that. This is an action which is already taking place since a few years. Initially there was very much resistance from the authorities, but now, partly through the actions of Michel, which we are also supporting with Johanna.be, things are moving in a positive direction, and in fact even in the last month it has been agreed by the City Council that something will happen. It is not as good as the plans that Michel did propose, so we're probably still negotiating for a while what really has to be done. Another quite important point is that the association recently got a letter from the king or for the king, from the administration of the king, that they welcome pedestrian crossings in front of the Royal Palace here, and I think that is going to be an important part also to put more pressure on the local authorities to do the right thing.
Yes, the fight is not finished. Huh?
The fight is not finished, indeed.
No.
But we crossed a few milestones here. I think we're
Yes.
it moves in the right direction.
We're in Brussels talking with Gilbert Perrat. What is the organization that you run here in Belgium?
Well, in French we call it Chemin du Rail, means rail trails or railway paths. Was founded in 1996, and we are dealing especially with the preservation of disused railway corridors and their conversion into paths for non-motorized users. I mean cyclists, pedestrians, persons in wheelchair, some cases horseback riders, inline skaters, etc., etc., etc. And the main importance for us of these disused railways is that they offer an opportunity to have safe paths, car-free communication routes, and usually nice landscapes, and also very interesting pieces of railway heritage.
Do you have a lot of opportunities to convert abandoned rail lines into trails here in Belgium?
Yes, Belgium was the country in Europe with the most extensive railway network until just after World War II. And then because of the heavy industry and coal mines closing one after another, the train traffic diminished a lot during the years. I think we abandoned more or less 40 kilometers of railway each year during 40 years. Now this movement has stopped, but anyway, we have about 1,600 kilometers of disused railway in Belgium, which is a lot. And fortunately, both parts of Belgium, Flanders and Wallonia, have decided to keep as many kilometers of these railways as possible to convert them into what we call now greenways here in Europe. And even in Brussels, in our capital, not far from here, there's an abandoned railway that was used to connect the suburbs of Brussels with the capital, and is now a very, very nice greenway and very busy on school days because pupils go to school on a bicycle or on their feet, and also on weekends when it's sunny. It's incredible. People who walk or jog or cycle along this greenway.
Who does your organization have to work with to get these old railways turned into trails? What level of government, what organizations? I mean, you don't just do it all by yourself.
No, not of course. We are more a lobby than managers of greenways, of course. The situation is different because, Belgium is a federal state, so there are 3 regions: Flanders in the north, Brussels in the center, and Wallonia in the south. In Flanders, the managers of the trails are, in most cases, the provinces or the cities, municipalities. In Brussels, the region itself manages greenways, this disused railway I told you, and more or less planned greenway along the canal that goes through Brussels. In Wallonia, there is a regional project called the RAVEL, Réseau Autonome de Voies Lentes, means an autonomous network of slowways. This project is able to use a very important budget. It was until 15 million euros a year to convert not only disused railways but also towpaths along canals and rivers. And the aim is to obtain, I would say in 5 years maybe, it's possible, a network of more than 1,500 kilometers of pure greenways, car-free paths for non-motorized users on those 2 main infrastructures, disused railways and towpaths.
What's happening with the rest of Europe? You just had a meeting this afternoon. Who was meeting?
Well, this afternoon we just had the General Assembly meeting of the European Greenways Association. And it's interesting to think that when we founded Chemin du Rail in 1996, our small local association, I just came back from Washington, D.C., where I met the people of Rails to Trails Conservancy. And when I discovered that they had 5 chapters all over the United States, as far as I remember, 60,000 members and a staff of 34 people, I said, well, if we found our own small association here, we are really nothing in the middle of Europe. We are just a needle. Immediately I proposed to my association and to the Walloon region, where we have our headquarters, to launch, if possible, a European Greenways Association. And we had very important financial support from the Walloon region first, then from the Brussels region, and then from partners from all over Europe, especially in Spain, Vias Verdes program, in Italy, in France, etc., etc. And we were able, 2 years after our own foundation, in 1998, to launch the European Greenways Association. And so we celebrated our 10th anniversary last year. And now it was our first meeting with a new team because our headquarters, which was in Belgium until now, is now in Madrid, in Spain. And I'm proud to announce that I just have been elected as president of this association. So part of my heart will stay here, but we work very closely with a Spanish partner, with all the countries member of the association. And our deal is especially to promote the concept of greenways, because there are greenways. I mean, by greenways, I mean infrastructures only for non-motorized users, so car-free infrastructures, car-free connection routes, to promote this idea in Europe, because most European countries have greenways on their territories, but they are not aware of the value of this concept. Often they call them cycle routes. It's not a cycle route. It's really a space where all kinds of non-motorized users can travel safely and in a nice way. And I'm thinking especially of pedestrians, because when you don't have to be careful for cars all the time, when you don't have to cross a road because you are on your own road, is very important for safety reasons. Of course, the greenways are only one of the tools we have to promote safety and for non-motorized mobility. But as long as we have many greenways through the cities, around the cities, from town to town, from village to village, then the amount of infrastructures that have to be created from nothing, from zero, diminishes. Because the greenways offer a kind of a backbone. And then after that you can implement connection from this backbone to all the important places.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.